the main character has lived through hundreds of reincarnations. In his first life, he stepped into the Miram world having learned only third-rate martial techniques. However, tragically, in that world, before he could even swing his sword, he encountered bandits. As a result, he was brutally cut down by them. This cycle continued. He would reincarnate and get killed. But he always retained the past lives' memories with him as he continued borrowing bodies of others in his repeated life. Once, he seized a chance he got by accident and gave it his all. The chance was the result of his unyielding desire to become the greatest under the heavens. At the moment he is standing on the edge of a cliff, staring down at the foggy mountain. A beautiful butterfly flutters and sits down on his extended hand. With a saddened expression, the protagonist claims it's tiring. He compares his repeated life to the continuous flapping of the wings of the butterfly, deeming it exhausting. He declares he has nothing more to achieve, having realized his ambition of becoming the greatest and ascending the throne of the true Miram world. Letting the butterfly take off, he stares up as it flies away, and he admits that, as surprising as it may be, he truly yearns for a much-needed rest. As his eyes begin closing, suddenly, darkness envelopes him and he sees no more. A pair of eyes open slowly, and their owner examines his arms raised above him as he lies down. The protagonist, lying in bed, is startled to find himself alive elsewhere. His face turns into horror and his shout shakes the air as he realizes he has been reborn again. He throws the blanket away in anger and bellows that he has had enough and wants to stop living. Suddenly, a pair of hands grab onto his hand, addressing him as young master. Looking sideways, he sees a concerned woman asking why he is saying such terrible things. At that moment, the past memories etched into the body come flooding back, causing the protagonist sharp pain. Seeing his sad expression, the woman asks him if he is okay. The protagonist realizes that the woman, who is the nanny of the body he is in, is like his mother, and the other guy behind the woman is like his brother. The protagonist stares into the mirror and learns the previous owner of his body had committed suicide. He realizes it was foolish to talk about ending his life after waking up in the body of someone who committed suicide. He then gives a smile and apologizes to the nanny, claiming he had a nightmare. The concerned nanny suggests calling a doctor, noting he must be unwell from skipping meals. But the protagonist claims he is fine and says he needs a little rest. The nanny tells him he should have some food, but he declines, stating he isn't hungry and wants to be alone. And he mutters to himself he should figure out what to do with the rest of his life. But the nanny hears this and, startled, asks the protagonist what he means by that. The protagonist quickly reasons, saying he misspoke, giving an awkward smile. Meanwhile, the nanny seems puzzled by his strange behavior. She points out to the protagonist that his way of speaking is a bit different. The protagonist realizes he needs to fix his way of speaking first, and he smiles and agrees to eat, assuring the nanny nothing will go wrong. The nanny's expression turns into relief. She turns to walk away, followed by the other man, saying she understands and will prepare the protagonist's favorite dishes. At the door, she turns and tells the protagonist to stay calm, prompting him to assure her, and she walks out, slamming the door. The protagonist slumps back down on his bed. He goes into deep thought, questioning why his life started again. For the next few days, the protagonist replayed the intertwined memories of the previous owner of his body. He discovers the body's original owner was Suk Jinho, an illegitimate son of the wealthy Suk family in the Central Plain. Despite their wealth, Suk Jinho was unfortunately a child born out of wedlock. Despite the affluent environment, Jinho's presence held no meaning in the face of the family's contempt for an illegitimate son. So Jinho grew pessimistic about his situation and started skipping his meals as if he was waiting for death. Finally, Jinho ended his life, and at that moment, the protagonist took over the body to continue his life. He notes that a young man like Jinho committed suicide while he himself is the one wanting to die. While living there, he realized that there are two people who love Jinho more than anything else. The big guy, seeing Jinho walking out in the cold weather, hurriedly escorts him to his quarters, putting warmer clothes on him. Meanwhile, the nanny, seeing Jinho, asks him why he returns so late, addressing that it's late and the weather is cold. Irritably, Jinho says he had many things on his mind and didn't notice it was dark. Suddenly, the big guy lifts Jinho and sets him down at the dining table, while the nanny urges him to eat before the food gets cold. Seeing such affection from those two, the protagonist calls Jinho foolish for killing himself and leaving the two behind. After the reincarnation as Suk Jinho, the protagonist has been absorbed in deep contemplation. He has been having thoughts he never had even after hundreds of lifetimes. He thinks it might be because he is accepting a kindness that isn't his, or because there's nothing left he wants. He, who has strived through countless repetitive lives, is unable to understand Jinho's choice. However, seeing the way those two caretakers look at him, he can't bring himself to pretend not to notice. Yet he still questions what Jinho wanted that he couldn't let go of even after death. He swears, using what remains of Jinho's spiritual power, to do his best to fulfill the will etched into the body. But he acknowledges the vessel is a bit small, assuming the will might be something that can't be let go. So he takes pity on Jinho and declares he will fulfill whatever his wish was. It's early morning and the house roof is covered in snow. The protagonist, waking up in Suk Jinho's body, stretches and notes that Jinho's will was to prove himself. So, to fulfill that will, he has begun his training. The first martial art he has decided to learn is the Taiji Heaven Flipping Technique. It's a body enhancement martial art that will transform Suk Jinho's physique, laying the foundation to learn the secret techniques the protagonist has honed over countless lifetimes. However, the process of altering one's innate physique is painful, but he is determined to endure it to master the divine art. During the process, he starts feeling immense pain but raises his determination and holds on just a bit more. He begins sweating in pain but doesn't give up, and finally, a swirling silver liquid appears between his palms. A bright glow intensifies, illuminating his whole body. He claims the process a success, and though it's slow, it's effective even while he is in motion, and he continues with the process. At that moment, someone calls for him, causing his attention to divert. The nanny walks out, brooding over Jinho sweating so much in the chilling cold. Walking up to Suk Jinho, she asks him if he is injured somewhere, offering him a handkerchief. Jinho asks the nanny back if she can see any injuries or see any pain in him. The nanny warns Jinho he is pushing himself too hard and might lead to serious consequences. But Jinho just smirks and, turning away, claims he isn't just working out but also practicing martial arts. He says he is doing that to be stronger to protect the nanny. Upon hearing this, the nanny claims she can protect herself and suggests Jinho stay healthy. Jinho smiles warmly and says it might be difficult as he has a favor to fulfill. The nanny is puzzled, hearing Jinho owes a favor, and wonders who it might be. Jinho asks the nanny to send Yoon to him, saying he has something to teach him as well. The nanny agrees, and she stares at Jinho as he walks away. She believes she should trust him rather than question, as she has seen him so assured for the first time. Also turning away, she declares she will support Jinho fully. The sky is bright, and out in the house, Yoon is busy training. He is throwing punches and looks tired, sweating. Meanwhile, Jinho is standing by the side, witnessing Yoon train. Jinho says he was right in thinking Yoon has an ideal physique to learn the heavenly extreme iron defense technique, and he claps, praising Yoon, saying they will stop the training for the day. Yoon, looking pleased, asks Jinho if he thinks he will become stronger. Jinho tells him he is far from being stronger, but admits his progress is quick. He also informs Yoon that with diligent practice and success, his defense technique will be impenetrable, encouraging him to keep working hard. Yoon expresses gratitude to Jinho for his dedicated training and promises to become his ally. Jinho tells Yoon to not belittle himself, claiming he is like his younger brother. At these words, Yoon begins tearing up and gives a powerful hug to Jinho. Taken aback, Jinho gives an awkward look, noting Yoon's body is sticky from sweat. At that moment, the nanny walks out holding a tray with a water mug on it. Jinho takes the cup and drains it, thanking the nanny. From nearby, he hears the voices of busy people all rushing, preparing for guests coming. Jinho asks the nanny about all the commotion, and the nanny explains it's the preparation for the Supreme Elder's 70th birthday celebration. Jinho claims he forgot. The nanny asks him if he will be alright, causing him to question about what. The nanny reminds Jinho he will have to confront his brothers, thinking it will be tough for him. But Jinho claims it's nothing tough to be worried about. Instead, he asserts that his brothers should be the ones to worry. Hearing such confidence in Jinho, the nanny wonders how he changed so much since the last incident. She says that since Jinho is so spirited, she can't afford to fall behind either. And she assures Jinho not to worry, stating she has handled the gifts, prompting Jinho to ask how she managed it given their financial constraints. The nanny says not everything needs money and reminds Jinho she made his outfit herself as well. Jinho is touched by the nanny's words and is still surprised to see people like her and Yoon care for him greatly. He gives a smile and says he is confident to return safely. The nanny hopes Jinho might become a disciple of the distinguished figures from the 9 great sects attending the Supreme Elder's birthday celebration. But Jinho says the 9 great sects aren't a big deal. The day of the 70th celebration is finally here. Jinho is being dressed for the celebration. Nervously, he asks the nanny if she's too excited, to which she affirms, expressing anticipation for others' surprise at his transformation. Even Yoon agrees with the nanny that Jinho has changed a lot. He states Jinho's eyes have intensified, his physique is stronger, and his confidence boosted. Jinho says it was necessary to change as there are people who believe in him, and he declares in the future, there will be more changes not just in his appearance. He says today marks his first step towards greatness, though he can't predict what will happen or how he will transform. And looking at the nanny and Yoon, he asks if they will continue trusting him and follow him in the future. Looking delighted, both the nanny and Yoon agree to follow Jinho wherever he goes. And so, Jinho and Yoon begin their journey to the birthday celebrations. After taking his leave from the Supreme Elder, Suk, Jinho sighs, saying he finally finished the bothersome task. Yoon tells Jinho to be careful of speaking, warning that someone might listen to him. At that moment, someone calls out to Jinho, stepping in front of him. Jinho, seeing the angry man, asks what the matter is. He asks the man why he is blocking his way as the man says he wants to have a conversation. Jinho notices the angry look on the man's face and recognizes him as Yi Jonggak from the Yi family of Hebei province. Even the people nearby see the massive tension between Jinho and Jonggak. Yoon offers to call the warriors, but Jinho tells him to stay still. Jinho suggests Jonggak is jealous of the attention he received from the elders, prompting Jonggak to snarl defensively, denying any envy. Jinho asks Jonggak if he isn't jealous, why he wants to start a fight for no reason. Jonggak clenches his fist and aims a punch at Jinho. However, Jinho swiftly dodges the punch and pushes Jonggak aside with one hand. Jonggak loses balance and slams down on the ground. Looking down at Jonggak on the ground, Jinho says he must be surprised. He mocks Jonggak, saying he must be surprised for getting his punch deflected and asks him if he is prepared since he started the fight himself. Jonggak rages with anger and charges at Jinho. Jinho aims a punch and jumps at Jonggak, telling him it's self-defense and not to feel wronged when hit. Jonggak realizes Jinho is too fast as he receives a powerful blow in his face. He shouts at Jinho and swings another attack, which Jinho dodges. Jonggak thinks Jinho is being too cocky, thinking he can dodge all his attacks, so he consecutively launches more attacks at Jinho. However, he is shocked as he sees Jinho dodge his attacks all 3 times. Jinho says Jonggak's attacks were clearly visible and easy to dodge. Jonggak feels he is being humiliated, and his anger grows more. So he reaches for his sword and draws it out, intending to kill Jinho now. Seeing the sword, the spectators are all bewildered as they call for the guards. Jinho's eyes blaze as he moves at blinding speed and knocks the sword out of Jonggak's hand. Taken off guard, Jonggak stares at the sword falling down. While he is distracted, Jinho punches hard right in his face, sending him flying backward. He slams down with force, groaning in pain. Jinho grabs onto Jonggak's sword as the spectators seem deeply impressed by his skills. They all realize the attention from the 2 sects Jinho received earlier was well deserved. At that moment, 3 guards arrive, asking Jinho if he is okay. They surround Jonggak, and one of them says the incident will not pass by quietly and they will confront the Yi family directly. Jinho says he wants to wrap the situation himself, and he points the sword at Jonggak's neck. Jinho tells Jonggak since he drew his sword, he should be ready to be chopped down as well. With his face looking furious, Jinho asks Jonggak if he should cut him down. Sweating with fear, Jonggak says he made a mistake. Jinho drops the sword, which clatters on the ground, causing Jonggak to pass out in fear. Walking away, Jinho tells the guards to clean up the rest. The guards agree and assure Jinho. As Jinho walks away, they start whispering regarding his movements earlier, sounding impressed and agreeing he has changed a lot. Meanwhile, sitting on the balcony of a nearby house, a young miss is looking down at Jinho. She mutters that Jinho seems quite capable. At that moment, a woman walks in and tells the young miss they should observe a bit more. The miss says there's no harm in securing Jinho first and worrying later, and says there's a chance someone might catch him before them. Licking her lips, she suggests they make the first move. She instructs the woman to start gathering info about Jinho. Also, she is the sister of Jinho and believes he will create a variable in the current situation. With that, she hopes to become the head of the Suk family. An old man, offering 2 pouches to Yoon, requests a favor, saying it's not impossible. Yoon firmly says he can't accept and tells the man he doesn't possess such capabilities. The man asks Yoon what he is talking about and claims Yoon and Jinho are like brothers. He mentions Yoon has grown strong under Jinho's guidance and recalls when Yoon had saved a servant from 5 ruffians some time ago. He then begs Yoon, saying he wants to learn the third-rate sword technique and third-rate movement technique properly. He also agrees to give up if Jinho refuses to give him lessons. Yoon agrees to the man's request and says he will try, as the man thanks him. At that moment, Jinho walks in, asking what the noise is about. Jinho tells Yoon to kick the noisy man out for disturbing his training. However, Yoon stays silent, causing Jinho to ask him why he is still there. The man begins to sweat in nervousness, trying to gather his courage. He then gets on his knees and bows to Jinho, saying he has been like a brother to Yoon since young. Jinho smiles and says that must be why Yoon didn't kick him out. He asks the man if he really wants to learn martial arts, to which the man agrees. Jinho points out that the man doesn't seem to have any ill intentions. He questions him why he should take him under his wing, to which the man says he will prove his worth to Jinho and be a useful follower. Jinho realizes that the man's character doesn't seem bad and notices his strong will and determination. He also sees Yoon's happy face and thinks the man must have gained his trust over time. He then asks the man if his name is Jong Maryung, which the man affirms. Jinho questions Maryung if he knows, causing Maryung to question what he is referring to. Jinho clearly tells Maryung he has no talent for martial arts. A massive tall building looms over the streets as Suk, Jinho and Yoon make their way forward. The people in the streets recognize Jinho and start whispering why he is outside as he always would be holed in his quarters. Some of them are aware of the gossip that Jinho changed but are unable to believe someone can change that much so easily. Hearing these whispers, Yoon asks Jinho if he is okay. Jinho assures him not to worry about it. Suddenly, someone steps right in front of Jinho, noting he heard the rumors as well and questioning if they are really true. Jinho sees a man ahead and thinks it must be Suk Manho. Suk Manho, with his arms crossed, claims that since it's the Supreme Elder's birthday, Jinho wouldn't have stayed holed up in his quarters. Jinho asks Manho if he is always so rude and reminds him he is the 5th young master while he himself is the 4th. Manho points out their 1-month age difference and asks Jinho if he's forgotten their family's principle of meritocracy. Jinho mocks Manho, saying he is just a second-rate warrior. Manho argues that even a second-rate warrior at his age isn't bad and criticizes Jinho for lazing around instead of contributing. Jinho merely smirks and tells Manho he knows how to stand in line. At these words, Manho gets angry and leans forward, and Jinho asks him if he is planning to pick a fight on such an important day. Manho moves his eye around and notices people watching. Jinho tells Manho they can settle their score the next day. Manho snarls his teeth and warns Jinho not to chicken out. Jinho assures Manho not to worry as he walks away. He considers Manho to be average despite his good reputation within the Suk family, and recalls a memory suggesting he has a score to settle with him. A large number of people are gathered around, all busy conversing. Yoon, looking around, notes it's immense, even more so than last year, as Jinho asks if that's so. They notice the Miram 5 flower as well as the representative of the top 10 great escort agencies from the Central Plains. Some seem to have even come from Zhongnan and Manhwa. Jinho thinks those must be from a prestigious family, and Yoon says this signifies the high stature of the Supreme Elder. He also points out the huge crowd, saying they will have to wait a while. Jinho accepts there's no helping it, and he cracks a smile as he notices an interesting spectacle to pass the time. A bit further ahead, he sees Suk Manho intimidated by the other younger generation, and he suppresses a laugh, seeing how Suk Manho was fired up just a while ago. At that moment, 2 old men appear behind Jinho, marveling at his physique, finding it superior to that of most younger generations. Jinho, looking irritated, asks them what they want. The taller old man realizes their rudeness, while the shorter one apologizes to Jinho, and they inquire about Jinho's identity and which family he belongs to, assuming he might be from a martial arts one. Jinho firmly gives his introduction and says he has no reason to answer the questions of those 2 men. Both the men extend their arm, blocking Jinho's way, and point out he doesn't know them, urging him to ask their identity. But Jinho claims he knows and asks the men if they are elders from the Manhwa sect and the Zhongnan sect. And walking forward, Jinho says they might be lost and offers to have a servant sent to guide them. Meanwhile, the people nearby are shocked to see Jinho acting in such a manner in front of those 2 old men of high importance. The taller old man forces a single cough and offers Jinho a place in the Manhwa sect. He claims the Hwa sect will make Jinho a top-notch martial artist, while the other man also offers Jinho to join his Zhongnan sect. However, Jinho declares no intention to join any sects. The taller old man says training alone won't suffice and tells Jinho if he comes to Manhwa, he will personally help him develop a sword scent. Jinho once again declines the offer, saying he intends to master the martial arts he is currently studying and takes his leave. The taller man extends his hand to grab onto Jinho's arm, but Jinho flings his arm forward. The old man, his hand still raised, becomes silent and shocked. He is surprised to see Jinho dodge his hand. The shorter man predicts Jinho will be the most powerful man under heaven, while the taller man marvels at his exceptional talent. Jinho and Yoon walk away as Jinho says he wasted his time in a pointless thing. Yoon asks Jinho if it's okay, as those two men were elders from prestigious sects, and Jinho assures him not to worry. At that moment, a man appears in front of Jinho, asking what he is doing there, and Jinho greets him as uncle. Jinho says he is waiting for his turn, causing his uncle to ask if he is a stranger to wait in line for guests, and he beckons Jinho to follow him as Jinho asks if they can see the Supreme Elder right away. The uncle affirms, saying he himself is from a branch family too. As Jinho follows his uncle, he notices a change in his demeanor, possibly influenced by the elder's interest in him. He smirks and considers himself worth being talked to. Meanwhile, in the hall, the Supreme Elder is sitting on the throne-like chair. A man stammers and declares his leave from the elder. The elder, looking disappointed, states there's no useful person there, as even elite descendants can't hide their fear in his presence. At that moment, an informant informs the elder of Suk Jinho and his uncle, Mr. Suk Myungwoo's arrival, and the elder commands to let them in. With the permission, Jinho and his uncle approach the Supreme Elder. The uncle greets him while Jinho holds a large box of gifts. Bowing slightly, Jinho wishes the elder a happy birthday, offering the gift, saying it's prepared by his nanny. As the elder reaches for the gift, he notes that Jinho became sincere instead of saying he prepared the gift himself. He opens the lid of the box, saying sincerity is appreciated. From the box, he takes out a piece of cloth, smiling, claiming it's wonderful, and he questions Jinho if two elders showed interest in him earlier, which Jinho affirms. The elder asks Jinho which sect he is considering, and Jinho claims he has interest in neither. He explains he has already declined the offers and says his current intention is to fully master the martial arts he is learning. The Supreme Elder laughs and asks Jinho if he has set ambitions on the Miram world instead of the mundane one, and Jinho says it's for the time being. At that moment, the uncle asks Jinho if he needs his assistance, to which Jinho declines. Jinho then bows down to the elder and asks for his leave. As Jinho leaves, the Supreme Elder notes that Jinho showed no sign of nervousness even in his presence, and he smirks, thinking he should test Jinho. He then summons a servant. He orders the servant to keep an eye on Jinho, who agrees to the command. The Supreme Elder looks forward to seeing if Jinho has the potential to take over the Suk family. Jong Maryung, still on his knees, says he is aware of his lack in martial arts talents. Suk Jinho asks him why he is still persistent despite knowing it, and Maryung says it's his dream to be a martial artist. Jinho explains that being a martial artist isn't as glorious as expected and reminds Maryung that one can lose their life to a single strike. Maryung claims he isn't under any illusions and says he understands that death can come to him at any moment. He also says dreams aren't dreamed for a reason, hearing which Jinho is reminded of the old days. Looking irritable, Jinho agrees to first keep an eye on Maryung and will decide later. Surprised, Maryung asks Jinho if he's serious, and Jinho tells him he hasn't been accepted yet but will be observed, which Maryung acknowledges. Yoon smiles and tells Maryung he has been given a chance. Maryung once again bows deeply and thanks Jinho, who tells him he is only allowed up to the front yard. Before leaving, Jinho instructs Maryung not to let any bothersome guys linger around and to kick them out. With teary eyes, Maryung thanks Yoon, while Yoon tells him it was because of his luck. At that moment, a voice says they have come to see Jinho, causing Yoon to turn back. A tall man asks if Jinho is inside, and Yoon says he is. The man tells Yoon to lead the way, claiming he has orders from young Miss Suk Myung, as Yoon asks him what she needs. The man, looking pissed, tells Yoon it's not his job to ask and tells him to lead. A while later, Yoon informs Jinho about the man, and Jinho, looking irritated, complains why there are so many unwelcome guests. The man walks up to Jinho, apologizing for just intruding, causing Jinho to disapprove the tone and ask if he heard correctly. The man asks if there is a problem and explains he is there to deliver a summons on behalf of Miss. But before he can continue, Jinho interrupts, saying the mist seems to raise barking dogs. With a smirk, Jinho mocks the man, commenting on how he barks without discerning his opponent. Taken aback, the man reacts as Jinho continues grinning, implying that a good beating can cure a rude dog. The man claims that Jinho has become arrogant after gaining a bit of attention. Saying so, he charges at Jinho, stating he will teach him a lesson. As his punch nears Jinho's face, he thinks Jinho won't be able to react, but to his surprise, Jinho steps sideways, dodging his punch. And before he can think further, Jinho launches a powerful slap across the man's face. It sends the man off balance, leaving him bewildered at his punch missing so easily. Jinho asks him if it hurts and says it's far from over as he launches another blow at the man's stomach. The man realizes it's a pressure point attack and Jinho has precisely targeted the exact spot. His eyes reflect Jinho's punch advancing at him as he groans. Jinho, smiling, asks if it's time for a fist therapy. A loud smacking noise sends the birds overhead flying off. Standing over the sprawled man, Jinho remarks on the annoyance of insignificant people acting arrogantly in his own house. As he walks away, Yoon asks him if he should read the summon order, but Jinho says his head hurts, so he can't read the summon. He hopefully says that after doing this much, they will send someone competent now. Pouring the tea, Suk Miryong says she got the gist of it but questions Jinho why he responded so aggressively. Jinho claims he did that so that man won't dare do it again and says those who underestimate him will learn their lessons as well. Suk Miryong points out to Jinho that he has changed a lot, to which he responds that he would be long dead if he hadn't. Suk Miryong gives a smile, saying Jinho has really grown up. However, Jinho doesn't approve the tone of Suk Miryong calling him our Jinho. Miryong reminds Jinho she is his older sister, as Jinho tells her to get on point about why she summoned him. Miryong agrees and says she will cut to the chase and requests Jinho's help. She asks him to help her become head of the Suk family, to which Jinho firmly refuses. Taken aback, Miryong asks if Jinho has received offers from other brothers, to which Jinho firmly responds that he has no interest in the other three or in becoming the family head. Miryong asks if Jinho plans to enter Jianghu, suggesting they could wield significant influence in both government and the Muram world if he helps her, and she tells Jinho it would be much grander than his current goal. Jinho says that would be beneficial for Miryong and the Suk family, and Miryong reminds Jinho it would be beneficial for him too. Now standing up, Miryong asks Jinho if he needs a strong backer, to which Jinho denies. Miryong wonders if this response of Jinho is sincere. She finds it understandable since Jinho caught the eye of the elder from the big sect and even overpowered a first-rate martial artist using pressure points. And since Jinho has demonstrated such strength and potential, Miryong believes it's acceptable of him to show some arrogance. Jinho stands up and, bowing, says Miryong will do well even without him. Miryong asks Jinho a last favor to keep having occasional tea with her, as she claims she isn't close to other siblings. She also tells him to expect more people to come for him, claiming she is not the one to give up easily. Meanwhile, the word that Jinho defeated Miryong's bodyguard has reached the Supreme Elder's ears, who is surprised to know that. The informant explains Jinho also blocked vital energy, while the Supreme Elder considers if the bodyguard was a first-rate martial artist. Looking excited, he decides to ask the details to Jinho personally, but the informant says that it will be difficult to meet Jinho at the moment. He says that Jinho has left the manor early in the morning without any attendant. Jinho navigates the forest, grateful that Tae-san remains unchanged, aiding his search. Suddenly, a nearby noise grabs his attention. A disturbance can be seen further ahead. Jinho recognizes the noise as the sound of weapons clashing as he sprints towards it. Once ahead, he sees two strangers engaged in combat. A woman holding a weapon and looking injured seems to be battling a goblin-like creature. Jinho claims that the event might liven up his dull day as he startles both the woman and the man by jumping in between them. He grins and says this is the kind of thrill only Jianghu can offer. The monster man asks Suk Jinho who he is, to which Jinho says revealing his identity is of no consequence. Jinho calls out the man for trying to covet a woman, calling him a lustful one. The exhausted-looking woman says that the man is a two-faced devil and reveals she has been affected by his poison. Suddenly, she warningly tells Jinho to be careful, and he sees the two-faced devil charging towards him. Jinho easily dodges the swipe of the devil's fanged arm and asks him if that was supposed to be his secret technique. Meanwhile, the devil is shocked, asking how Jinho dodged, to which Jinho mocks the devil for being too slow. He then kicks a small stone from the ground at the devil, instructing him that's how you should strike an opponent's vulnerabilities. The stone strikes the devil man in the stomach with great force. The devil man, groaning in pain, says Jinho is trying to show off in front of a woman. He then declares Jinho's arrogance will end as he summons a dark energy attack in his palm. He aims the attack at Jinho, claiming he will end the battle with a single strike. However, Jinho dodges the attack again and mocks the devil man, saying his attacks are too slow, and he smacks a powerful punch on the devil man's stomach, claiming he is used to dealing with loudmouths like him. The powerful blow causes the devil man to spit blood and collapse, and with that, he lays on the ground on his knees. Jinho raises two fingers and says he will seal the devil man's energy, who now is laying on the ground on his face. He assumes that the devil man seems to be the type to enjoy a dramatic finish with a lady like the one present there. After the devil man is dealt with, the woman thanks Jinho. At that moment, someone arrives, calling out for the lady. A man, sweating and running, asks the lady what happened, who addresses him as uncle. She rushes into her uncle's arms, who apologizes to her for not being vigilant, but the lady says she should apologize for sneaking out carelessly. The uncle notices the lady's face and asks her if she got poisoned, and the lady affirms. Both of them get on their knees, and the uncle tells the lady to regulate her breath, claiming he will use his internal energy to expel the poison. Saying so, he places both his hands on the lady's back, and a watery glow appears. The poison gets expelled as the uncle says they are done. The lady thanks her uncle, who says he is glad she is safe. He walks up to Jinho and, bowing, thanks him for saving the young miss. He then introduces himself as Baek Sangin of the Habukpeng family, and the lady introduces herself as Peng Naian of the Habukpeng family. Jinho suggests they focus more on the guy he defeated and says he has applied pressure to his acupoints, so there shouldn't be any problems. Peng Naian informs her uncle that the guy called himself the Two-Faced Devil. The uncle assumes the Two-Faced Devil might be a first-rate warrior with a track record of killing even the peak masters. Miss Naian excitedly says that the Two-Faced Devil was subdued in one blow and begins praising Jinho's skills. The uncle turns to Jinho to ask his name but is startled to see him disappear. He is surprised he didn't even sense Jinho leaving, while he notes that Jinho didn't even look like an adult, and he begins thinking about him curiously. Meanwhile, Miss Naian looks hurt at Jinho disappearing so suddenly. The uncle, seeing her sad, promises to find Jinho, claiming someone powerful like him can't stay hidden for long, and he is hopeful about this as they even know Jinho's exact appearance. He claims his Habukpeng family never forgets a favor and declares they will find Jinho quickly. Naian says she will do her best. Night has fallen, and Jinho is still wandering through the forest. He mutters something is nearby, finding the terrain familiar. A while later, he peers through a large bush and grins. In front of him is a small herb-like plant. Suddenly, a hissing noise fills the air, and a black cat appears, startling Jinho. Jinho believes the cat seems to understand his words and decides to check using his spiritual eye. Activating his spiritual eye, he realizes the cat is a spirit beast at an early stage. Suddenly, the cat stops and its fur stands on its back as it mews, prompting Jinho to ask if it can see his internal energy. He then extends his arm, and the cat licks his hand as he says he will give the cat something to eat instead of the 100-year-old wild ginseng. A while later, both Jinho and the cat start gnawing at the 60-year-old wild ginseng. Chewing on it, Jinho acknowledges the ginseng is a good spirit herb. Soon, he starts feeling the energy spreading throughout his entire body. From past experiences, he knows he has to guide the energy towards his dantian, which will merge with the energy of the chaotic origin heavenly thunder divine art. With Jinho sitting down, a bright glow of energy appears around his body. He takes a deep breath and claims he managed to absorb it properly. At that moment, the cat appears beside him, mewing. He thanks the cat for keeping him company and protecting him and, standing up, promises to repay it back. The cat walks forward and brushes itself against Jinho's leg, purring. Seeing this, Jinho asks if the cat wants to follow him, and the cat meows. Jinho says he won't stop the cat from following him, and he carries the cat on his shoulder and takes it along, naming it Darky. Suk Jinho takes the cat he named Darky back to his house. The cat climbs up to a spot, and Jinho asks if he wants to claim that place, to which the cat meows. Jinho says he's uncertain how long he'll stay in the house but assures the cat they'll be there at least until the end of the year. At that moment, Jong Maryung, accompanied by Nanny and Yoon, walks in, saying he would have joined Jinho if asked. Nanny hugs Jinho and asks if his journey went well. Jinho nods and asks Nanny how she is. Yoon asks Jinho if he accomplished what he set out to do, and Jinho affirms, claiming he had a pretty fruitful time. The cat brushes against Nanny's legs, who marvels at seeing it. Jinho then introduces the cat to the others, saying it's his subordinate. Nanny finds the cat cute and bends down to stroke it. Jinho warns that the cat is dangerous, with the power to easily defeat a few third-rate warriors. Meanwhile, Maryung is taken aback to learn the cat is a subordinate to Jinho, as he claims even he hasn't been recognized as one yet. Jinho asks Maryung why he looks serious, causing him to quickly laugh and say that as an outsider, even a cat seems to bother him. Jinho asks Maryung if he has been training, and Mariung says he has been. Jinho then turns around and says he will rest and instructs others to carry on with their tasks. He offers the cat Darky some jerky before he leaves. It's daytime, and Darky is wandering on the rooftop of the house. Below, Mariung is busy training. Darky gives a loud yawn, which Mariung notices. With a furious look, he thinks Darky is trying to disregard him. As Darky jumps down in front of him, he scolds him for ignoring a human. At that moment, Jinho and Yoon walk in, both laughing at Mariung for quarreling with a cat. Mariung points out that Darky doesn't seem like an ordinary cat, to which Jinho affirms that Darky isn't an average cat. He warns Mariung not to call Darky an animal, but Mariung ignores it and, laughing, calls Darky animal again. Suddenly, from behind, Darky lands a powerful kick on Mariung's face, taking him by surprise. As he massages his cheek in pain, Jinho tells him he did warn him. Darky starts going around in circles, making an impatient noise as if he wants to show Mariung something. Suddenly, Darky jumps off his feet and flexes cool gymnastic moves. He walks away, leaving Mariung bewildered. Shaken up and shocked, he questions how Darky did that, and Jinho says Darky is a spirit beast, so it's capable of it. Yoon notes that Darky isn't an ordinary cat even if it's a spirit beast, and Jinho tells him not to tell others about it. Jinho informs Yoon they have a guest. At that moment, a man appears there, bowing at Jinho, and informs him the Supreme Elder is seeking his presence. On the command of the Supreme Elder, Jinho goes to visit him, asking how he has been. The Supreme Elder says he isn't well since Jinho left home without a single word, and Jinho says it's too late to report every single thing. The Elder asks Jinho if he is teasing him, but Jinho claims he is just telling the truth. The Elder asks Jinho if he is aware of many who can't even tell the truth. He says that something good seems to have happened to Jinho, causing his vibe to change, and Jinho admits he was lucky. The Elder asks Jinho if he still holds the intention to leave and attain greatness through martial arts, and Jinho, bowing, affirms. The Elder reminds Jinho that the place is his home, and Jinho claims just because it's his home, he isn't compelled to stay there. The Elder tells Jinho he is different, and Jinho says it might be because of his current situation. He asks the Elder if it was in the past, would he have been able to face him? He confronts the Elder for showing interest in him due to his usefulness, to which the Elder doesn't deny but sincerely expresses his wish for Jinho to stay. Jinho says he will gratefully accept the Elder's sentiment but claims he isn't as exceptional as the Elder thinks. The Elder laughs and tells Jinho to lie properly, asserting no one would believe his claims, but Jinho asserts few would believe it. A thought strikes the Elder, and he wonders if Jinho had confined in his quarters all the time so he could plan and leave the Suk family. He believes Jinho might have pre-planned it all, considering his actions. So he questions Jinho's intentions on leaving the family, asking if he can't be satisfied with being just a tail of a dragon. Smirking, Jinho questions about the dragon. The Elder says calling Jinho a dragon might not do him justice and suggests he raise himself as a dragon. Jinho says it's not his responsibility, it's the duty of other siblings. The Elder asks Jinho if he doesn't carry the Suk family's blood, and Jinho says he carries only half of it. The Elder asks him if he even intends to return, to which Jinho says he doesn't. Then the Elder requests Jinho to stay and celebrate his birthday party before leaving and, until then, engage in a few conversations with him. He questions Jinho if he will fulfill that last simple favor of his, to which Jinho agrees. The Elder grants Jinho permission to leave, and Jinho stands up. As Jinho leaves the room, the Elder notes that he has inherited the stubbornness of the Suk family and asks the informant behind him his opinion. The informant agrees Jinho has changed a lot and suggests they now assess him solely based on his energy. The Elder sighs and mutters it's truly regrettable. He expresses the certainty that with Jinho's help, the Suk family could truly become a dragon. As Jinho enters his residence, the cat, Darky, trots beside him. Jong, Mariung and Yoon greet Jinho and ask if he had a pleasant journey. Yoon says Jinho must have had a long conversation with the Elder, but Jinho denies it, claiming he stopped by his sister's on the way, so he is late. Yoon asks him if something happened, but Jinho assures it was nothing. Jinho says that his sister was truly impressed by Darky. He then yawns and says he is hungry and asks Yoon to tell Nanny to prepare him a meal. Looking tired, he longs to lie quietly and rest. Meanwhile, outside Jinho's residence, two people step forward. They are Baek Sangin and Pang Naean, as Pang Naean looks impressed by the Suk family's place. Baek Sangin and Pang Naean enter the Suk family's residence, both looking impressed. Naean asks if it will be okay to show up without notice, and Sangin says it will be fine as they have come to express their gratitude. He speaks to the guard, introduces himself, and requests the guard to inform Jinho of their arrival. One of Jinho's brothers notices Lady Naein and bows to her, asking why she is in their residence. Naein says she is there to see Jinho, which causes his face to show disappointment. Uncle Sangan explains that Jinho is their benefactor who saved Lady Naein, and they have come to express gratitude to him. Jinho's brother is surprised to hear Jinho became a benefactor but nevertheless offers to guide Naein and her uncle. Meanwhile, Jinho senses something unsettling will happen soon. He then sees his brother accompanying Naein and Sangan, all approaching him. Upon closer inspection, he notices a curious expression on his brother's face, suspecting it relates to his and Lady Naeon's relationship. Sangan and Lady Naein both greet Jinho as Naein introduces herself and says she came to pay respect and thank him. Jinho smiles and asks the two of them to come inside. Baek Sangan turns his head and thanks Jinho's brother for guiding them there, addressing him as Suk Jin Ryong. Jin Ryong says he will have a guide arranged for the two of them to guide them to their quarters once they converse with Jinho. He then instructs the guard to investigate Jinho's connection to the Habukping family, despite the expected difficulty. But he threateningly asks the guard to do as asked. He grins, knowing the Habukping family is famous for their martial artists and thinks if his family can harness their martial power, it would be beneficial. And he is also hopeful to make Lady Naein his wife. 3 cups of tea are laid out for Jinho, Naein, and Sangan as they begin conversing. Naein says she tried to visit quietly but now is worried if she stirred things up too much, but Jinho says it's fine. Sangan notices that Jinho is very different from the usual younger generation. He is impressed that Jinho isn't flustered seeing the beauty of Lady Naein, as he remembers Jin Ryong's expressions were quite visible. Lady Naein, blushing, withdraws a wrapped thing, saying it's a small token of her gratitude for Jinho for saving her life. It's a plaque which she explains can give one various benefits if used, which also enables one to get financial support. However, seeing the item, Jinho is flabbergasted, as it's clearly not a small token. Sangan points out that the token isn't as important as Lady Naein and also warns Jinho that if he refuses the token, Naein won't move from her place. So Jinho decides to accept it. Looking pleased, Lady Naein thanks Jinho. Jinho claims he had been looking for ways to raise money so the token, if used properly, will help a lot. The next day, Lady Naein greets Jinho and asks if he slept well. Jinho affirms he did. Looking nervous and blushing, Lady Naein gives a hint she wants to speak to Jinho. Jinho, who realizes this, asks Naein if she wants to say something to him. Naein stammers and requests Jinho if he can spar with her, surprising him with such a request. But he accepts the request. A while later, both of them get ready to spar, both holding their respective weapons. Jinho lets Naein make the first move, who seems excited to learn from him. Naein raises her naginata. She brandishes it towards Jinho, sending blades of air towards him. Jinho swiftly moves around and dodges all the attacks easily. Seeing not a single of her attacks hit Jinho, Naein is shocked, so she dashes towards him aiming to combat at close range. Once closer to Jinho, she raises the naginata and swings it at him, but Jinho dodges it. Now with his sword ready, Jinho claims it's his turn. He then aims the attack at Naein, who blocks it with her weapon. Witnessing the massive force in Jinho's attack, Naein is taken aback, and she also realizes that Jinho seems to know her every move as if he is already familiar with her family's martial arts. She then steps back as Jinho advances on her. Raising her weapon above her head, she aims it at Jinho, thinking he won't be able to dodge it as she has the advantage of distance. But she gasps as Jinho does a flip on his spot using the sword to hover himself. He also manages to push her back, causing her weapon to fling out of her hand. The weapon swirls in the air, and Jinho catches it. He swings the weapon and holds it between both his hands at his back and points it straight at Naein, who is unable to move or react. Jinho grins, victorious. Peng Naein raises both hands in surrender as Suk Jinho points her own weapon at her. Her expression is blank, and she is silent. Jinho offers some advice, which Naein happily agrees to listen to. Jinho explains that her technique is good, but her attacks are predictable, so he suggests she use unexpected attacks. Naein knows Jinho's final attack was intentionally obvious because holding a sword doesn't mean he'll use it. She asks Jinho if they can spar the next day as well. Jinho agrees, causing Naein to smile excitedly. As Jinho leaves, Baek Sangin realizes Jinho has truly changed and believes he has greater potential than the 6 dragons. Naeun smiles gleefully, claiming to be very objective. Sangin questions if that's good, noting it said one wouldn't be too obvious if they like someone. However, Naeun turns around and pretends not to understand Sangin's remark. Turning back to Sangin, she asks if he is curious about Jinho's exceptional skills. Sangin ponders and claims he is indeed curious. He suggests they test Jinho together, and Naeun expresses excitement at the idea. Meanwhile, in his chambers, the Suk family manor master, Suk Myeonnael, holding a book, seems to be deep in thought. He asks the informant if Jinho has really changed so much. The informant affirms he saw it firsthand. He is also shocked to learn that Jinho, once a nobody, rejected 2 sex proposals and defeated strong opponents in sparring. The informant says geniuses appear unexpectedly, and while Myeonnael agrees, he is disappointed that Jinho isn't interested in the family. The informant explains that Jinho rejected Miss Miryang's proposal as well as Master Jian Ryang's offer. Myeonnael mentions that Jinho also rejected the proposal of his father, the Supreme Elder. As Myeonnael goes through the diary, the informant tells him to look at the last report. Myeonnael sees something related to Sword Flower and Jin Ryang and thinks the plan is good, but is uncertain if it will work. The Habukpung family is at the bottom of the top families, but is still one of the top powers in the world. They are a prestigious family that leads the righteous in the Miram world. Myeonnael believes only the Sword Flower's interest in Jin Ryang could bring the Habukpung family's forbidden apple to his house, as money alone won't suffice. The informant says he will figure something out. Myeonnael instructs the informant to tell Jin Ryang to stop messing around, warning him that if their relationship is damaged by his actions, Jin Ryang will be held responsible. Someone is stroking Darky, noting that Jinho really got the cat as a pet. At that moment, Jinho walks in, as Darky jumps down on the ground. The man waves at Jinho, smiling and saying it's been a while. Jinho smiles back and addresses the man as Uncle Diakul, expressing happiness at seeing him. They both head inside, and Diakul mentions he heard Jinho has changed. Jinho says he will change more as he gets older, and Diakul teases him about talking about getting old when he is just 17. Jinho claims 17 is enough and reminds Diakul that coming of age means a lot in the Suk family, thanking him for his support. Suk Diakul is the representative of the Suk and Wind Escort Agency, run by the Suk family manor. He was born as an illegitimate son of the Suk family, so he understands Jinho's situation better than anyone. So, he never ignored Jinho, who would be isolated, and whenever he returned from a mission, he would make sure to look after Jinho. Jinho asks Diakul what's on his mind, and Diakul is surprised to be seen through by someone as young as Jinho. In defense, Jinho says he is rather perceptive, and he asks Diakul to speak out about what he wants. Diakul reveals he needs Master Baek Sangin's help for his escort agency, which is threatened by the White Demon Escort Agency. He also adds that, despite lacking evidence, he's certain the Black Crow Fortress is aiding the White Demon Escort Agency. Jinho agrees that if Master Sangin steps in, it would be easier, as even the Black Crow Fortress won't be a match for him. Diakul says that he asked Sangin for help, but he already refused and says he came to Jinho for help as a last resort. Jinho agrees to help Diakul set a meeting with Sangin, but says he will probably refuse again. Diakul says if a meeting is arranged, he will figure out the rest. Jinho says that Master Sangin is waiting right outside, so Diakul can meet him right away. He calls for Master Sangin and Lady Naeun to come in. Heeding the call, both of them walk in. Diakul greets Master Sangin, and Sangin recognizes Diakul. Jinho offers Sangin and the lady seats. Seeing Diakul, Sangin thinks the meeting is set to discuss his refusal to help Diakul. He asks Jinho if he also plans to ask for his assistance. Meanwhile, Jinho withdraws the token he got from the lady and returns it. Master Sangin is taken aback seeing this. Jinho claims helping Lady Peng was the right thing, and he never expected anything in return. He explains he is returning it so that Master Sangin doesn't have to do something he doesn't want to do. Jinho says he won't request anything but instead proposes something. He reveals that if Master Sangin accompanies him to Black Crow Fortress, there will be 2 benefits: resolving his curiosity and gaining practical experience. Master Sangin wonders how resolving his curiosity might be involved. Jinho explains that since Sangin is interested in his martial arts techniques, it will satisfy his curiosity to see Jinho Jinho take on the enemies. Sangin asks Jinho if he is really that confident, reminding him that the Black Crow Fortress leader is a formidable opponent. Jinho tells Sangin he can test his skills himself to be sure, and he suggests they start without delay. A while later, both Jinho and Sangin are outside, ready to spar. Watching from the side, Diakwal questions if Jinho can match Master Beck, while Lady Naeun suggests the outcome will surprise. She points out that Jinho should not be underestimated. Diakwal thinks that even if Jinho has changed, the skill gap between him and Sangin is too large. Meanwhile, Jinho withdraws his sword and asks Sangin if he is ready. Sangin offers Jinho the first move. Master Beck Sangin's and Suk Jinho's spar begins. Immediately, Master Beck realizes Jinho is remarkably fast with a powerful aura. He presses hard on the ground and activates his earth and heaven-dominating divine technique. Seeing Jinho standing ahead, he decides to stop his troublesome movements first. Raising his hand, he shoots energy attacks at Jinho. However, he is shocked to see Jinho pierce through his energy and close in on him. Even more astonishingly, Jinho advances effortlessly without blinking or struggling. Jinho also raises his hand and summons fire, which clashes with Master Beck's energy attack. Sensing it's too early to overpower Beck with pure strength, Jinho decides to fight efficiently. Master Beck acknowledges the end of the concession and Jinho agrees, suggesting they get started. And so their fierce hand-to-hand combat begins. Jinho believes he doesn't necessarily need to win, just to put up a decent fight. Meanwhile, Master Beck is surprised to see Jinho closing the distance between them. Suddenly, a powerful blow sends Master Beck flying backwards as he realizes he let his guard down. Jinho's punch even strikes the wall, crumbling it. Master Beck acknowledges that Jinho is predicting all his moves. The next moment, both of them pull back their fists, ready to launch a punch. Their punches connect, sending a powerful force of air around them. Jinho's fist is engulfed in flame while a silvery, smoke-like energy dances around Master Beck's hands. Master Beck wonders if he can gauge Jinho's true skills by going all in. Knowing Jinho is strong, Beck decides it will be fine to do so just this once. Jinho tells Beck he can use more of his internal energy to satisfy his curiosity. Beck agrees to use full force, hoping Jinho will handle it easily. He summons a massive amount of internal energy around him. Raising both hands and pointing them at Jinho, he shoots a powerful blast of energy. The force of the attack causes a massive explosion of bright light that rises higher than nearby houses. Spectators of the spar cover their eyes from the intense light. Jong Mariung suggests they stop the battle, but Yoon tells him to keep watching. Mariung expresses fear that something big might happen soon, but Yoon reassures him that Jinho is also very strong. Meanwhile, amidst the spar, Master Beck lets out a loud laugh. Jinho, also smiling, suggests they stop, noting Beck has seen enough. Lady Naeun marvels, impressed by Jinho, while Diakwal is open-mouthed in shock at Jinho's power. Mariung weeps and says he believed in Jinho, while Yoon laughs and reminds him he was worried just a moment ago. Master Beck asks Jinho if he's willing to reveal his strength by fighting the strong bandit fortress. Jinho asserts he never intended to hide it. He says he can't abandon his uncle who took care of him in his childhood. At these words, Uncle Diakwal gives a big smile. Beck agrees that he and Lady Naeun will accompany Diakwal. He is really impressed with Jinho and decides to send word to his family once it's all over. He is also eager to establish a good connection with Jinho of the Black Crow Mountain. Jinho and the others accompanying Diakwal march towards the Suk Wind Escort Agency. Once they reach the agency and explain their plan, the agency head doesn't seem to like the suggested course of action. He asks if Jinho really suggests dividing their forces and considering a pincer attack. Jinho clarifies it's not a pincer attack, he just needs enough men to ensure no one escapes. The agency head insists they can't be reckless and must retrieve the goods at all costs, so he can't divide their forces. He explains that the banditry was not the sole action of the Black Crow Fortress and mentions the White Demon Escort Agency backing them up. Jinho suggests they likely planted someone to smuggle goods in emergencies, undermining trust in the Suk Wind Escort Agency. The agency head thinks it might be a plausible scenario but still finds it difficult to divide their forces. Master Beck smiles and assures the head not to worry, saying nothing bad will happen to the agency. Reassured by Master Beck, the head agrees to follow Jinho's plan. Despite this, the head is still uncertain about allowing their forces to be divided. He worries if it's the right decision to reduce the forces entering through the main gate by more than half. Suddenly, he gasps as he sees Jinho kick the gate into pieces with a single kick. Grinning, Jinho tells the agency head not to worry. Diakwal also assures the head it's fine, noting that Jinho is really strong. At that moment, a bald man holding a sword comes running, asking who the intruders are. Jinho replies that the bandit will see for himself, and he grabs the bandit by the throat and easily lifts him off the ground. Jinho lifts the bandit off his feet, grabbing him by his throat. The bandit begins drooling and asks for help, groaning. Jinho snaps his neck and throws him sideways. Suddenly, a large group of angry bandits arrives, threatening Jinho for attacking the green forest. The bandit at the front snarls, saying Jinho has some nerve. Meanwhile, Jinho withdraws his sword calmly. The next moment, he slices through the bandits one after another as fast as lightning. The agency head is startled seeing Jinho in action. The remaining bandits all cower and shake in fright. Jinho mocks them and asks if they won't advance. Seeing the scared looks on the bandits' faces, Jinho calls them cowards for lacking courage. He tells them to bring out their leader, the giant strength great axe guy. At that moment, a large man walks out among the bandits. He grabs one of the bandits, scolding him for running away from just one kid. He disgraces the bandit for such cowardice and slams him onto the ground. The bandit groans after being slammed. Jinho and the others watch in silence. The bandit leader widens a smile and says it's pathetic to see a brat like Jinho causing a scene. Looking at Lady Naein, he says he will give Jinho a painless death for bringing her. Meanwhile, Jinho, looking irritated, tells the bandit leader to cut the nonsense and fight. This causes the bandit leader to rage with anger, and he charges at Jinho. Jinho reacts swiftly and easily blocks the bandit leader's massive blade with his bare hands. The spectators are bewildered seeing this. Even the bandit leader is taken aback. He can't believe Jinho just grabbed his sword with bare hands. Jinho increases his grip on the sword, causing it to begin shattering. The bandit leader, who ascended the Black Crow Fortress solely with his own strength, can't accept that he will be defeated by a brat like Jinho. He shouts out that there's no way that's possible. Jinho reaches for the bandit leader's head and slams him onto the ground. The leader groans as his face gets covered in blood. Jinho removes his hand and tells the bandit leader he is pathetic. The other bandits are horrified that the giant strength great axe guy is defeated and note they should report it to the top. Most of them start fleeing, while one tries to secure the goods from being seized. However, Lady Naein confronts him before he can take another step. The bandit warns Naein to step aside. He decides to let go of the goods and tries to escape by taking down Naein. Suddenly, Naein smacks a powerful punch right in his stomach. Grinning, Naein asks the bandit if he thought he could easily subdue her. Jinho walks in and praises Naein for not letting the bandit escape. Naein claims she did as she was asked, to not let anyone escape. Jinho bends down and forces the bandit's mouth wide open, causing Naein to ask what he is doing. Jinho says he is checking if the bandit has any poison pills in his mouth to commit suicide. At Habuk Ping family's residence, Ping Jinguk, the head, asks for details about the young master of the Suk family. The informant explains that the young master's name is Suk Jin Ryong, a 25-year-old man reputed to be narrow-minded. Jinguk inquires if Jin Ryong has any martial arts talents, which the informant denies. With this information, Jinguk declares it's bold of Jin Ryong to seek an engagement with her daughter Naein. He growls with anger, finding it presumptuous, while the informant tries to calm him down. Calming himself, Jinguk then questions the informant about Suk Jinho, having heard of his great feats. The informant explains that Jinho suddenly rose to prominence last year. Jinguk acknowledges that Jinho has become a warrior compared to the 6 dragons. He also notes that Jinho has successfully managed to charm Naein as well. The informant asks if they should summon Naein back before unwanted rumors start spreading. Jinguk agrees and orders Naein to be brought back, adding that if she refuses, Jinho should accompany her as well. He expresses a desire to see and know Jinho personally. A number of servants arrive at Jinho's residence, all carrying parcels. The parcels seem to contain food of different kinds. Nanny exclaims with happiness seeing this as Jinho asks if she is happy. Jinho says they've struggled for too long and believes the bounty on the giant strength great axe and his family's support will improve their situation. Nanny wipes her teary eyes and says it's not just the goods that make her happy but that the manor master sent them. Jinho also says he didn't expect him to send so much after he declined the request from the manor master. Nanny says she is happy Jinho is getting recognition. Jinho says he wants to settle somewhere with clean air and peace. Suddenly, Jong Mariung comes running through the gates, shouting for Jinho. Jinho looks disappointed at first to see Mariung, but his expression changes as he notices Mariung's fearful look. Seeing Mariung's beaten-up face, he asks him who did that to him. Nano asks Jong Mariung what happened to him, while Jinho asks if he got into a fight. Mariung begins to explain what really happened. After a while, Jinho learns that the 7th group leader, Bong Woo-ryung, had beaten him up. Mariung claims that a servant without a patron is often at the mercy of the martial artists from the manor guards. As Jinho still hadn't fully accepted Mariung and was only observing him, he realizes he was negligent. He commands Mariung to follow him, and Mariung asks where they will head. Jinho replies that he can't stand seeing his people people mistreated. Startled, Mariyoung asks Jinho if he means that Mariyoung is one of his people. Jinho affirms and tells him to follow him. Accompanied by Mariyoung, Jinho reaches the manor pavilion guards. Despite Mariyoung's attempts to talk him out of his recklessness, Jinho says that attacking Mariyoung is like disrespecting him. He tells Mariyoung to not forget he is his people and instructs him to act accordingly. The guards at the place, seeing Jinho, ask why he is there. Jinho instructs the guards to inform the 7th group leader to come and see him. A while later, 2 members of the 7th group arrive there. Upon arrival, they notice Mariyoung, and one of them curses him. Jinho intervenes and curses the man back with an angry face. The man is shocked to see Jinho there. Jinho asks the man if he takes him lightly. Looking taken aback, the man stammers that he didn't mean such. Meanwhile, the guards request Jinho to calm his anger. Jinho's eyes blaze as he states he can't calm down when he and his people are disrespected. Both guards are terrified at the scary look on Jinho's face. Jinho confronts those 2 men and points out that they only cares about their contract and don't give a damn about others. At that moment, a loud voice shouts to stop as the 7th group leader, Bong Woo-ryung, walks in asking Jinho what's the matter. Jinho explains that he was trying to teach the clueless fools and their leader who don't know their places. Hearing this, Bong Woo-ryung gets offended. Grinning, Jinho calls out Bong Woo-ryung for selling his pride for money and points out he has now lost the pride of a warrior as well. Bong Woo-ryung gets enraged and draws his sword, warning Jinho that he has crossed the line. Raising the sword, he charges at Jinho. After closing in on him, Bong Woo-ryung swings the sword at Jinho, who dodges it. Jinho notices that Bong Woo-ryung, who is considered first-rate, has faulty movements. Witnessing Jinho dodge more attacks, Bong Woo-ryung is shocked by his smooth movements and realizes the rumors aren't exaggerated. Now bored, Jinho declares he will end it. He stops the sword with his 2 fingers and tells Bong Woo-ryung he isn't very skilled. He also notes that if it were in the past, he would have already killed Bong Woo-ryung, but now plan is to send a clear message so that no one can ever underestimate him. Then he pulls the sword out of Bong Woo-ryung's hands. Readjusting the sword, he points it towards Bong Woo-ryung himself. The guards are all bewildered seeing Bong Woo-ryung defeated so easily and wonder how Jinho became so powerful. Meanwhile, Jinho, grinning, says Bong Woo-ryung should pay a price for disrespecting him. At that moment, the manor leader, Ma Chong-san, walks in and requests Jinho to stop. He promises to make Woo-ryung and Chu-sam apologize and administer disciplinary actions. Jinho knows that Ma Chong-san was brought there by the supreme leader himself and acknowledges him as a true warrior at heart. He drops the sword, stating he'll stop out of respect for Ma Chong-san, and warns that he won't tolerate such incidents happening again. Ma Chong-san then tells Woo-ryung and Chu-sam to apologize. Following the command, both of them bow down and apologize to Jinho. Jinho reminds Chu-sam that there is someone else he should apologize to, so Chu-sam turns to Mariyoung and apologizes to him as well. Meanwhile, Mariyoung looks taken aback and becomes silent. Jinho asks him to decide quickly, and with a nervous look, Mariyoung says it's okay and forgives Chu-sam. Chong-san asks Jinho if it's settled, and Jinho affirms it is. As Jinho turns to leave, Chong-san realizes that a monster has appeared in the Suk family. Currently, Jinho is overseeing the training of Mariyoung and Yoon. Both of them have dedicated themselves to train harder than ever, and Mariyoung has even been officially recognized as Jinho's follower. Mariyoung had expressed a desire to become stronger after being under Jinho's mentorship. Also, Jinho has been frequently receiving bothersome visitors recently, which has somehow become his daily routine that he can't avoid. While Nanny is busy playing with Darky, someone announces their arrival to her. She turns around and is taken aback to see one more visitor than usual. Master Baek Sangyeon and Lady Peng Naeun are accompanied by a third person behind them. Lady Naeun says she has brought a new guest. The third person expresses pleasure to meet Nanny. Walking forward, he introduces himself as Peng Mugyeon of the Bibepeng family and also Lady Naeun's Oroboni. Peng Mugyeon greets and introduces himself. Jinho greets back, also introducing himself. Mugyeon apologizes for the sudden visit, to which Jinho says it's no problem and offers him to come inside. Meanwhile, Lady Naeun thinks it's not necessary and worries Jinho might feel burdened. Mugyeon expresses a desire to know Jinho better and try to take him back to his family. Naeun warns Mugyeon to be careful and not speak out of turn, causing Mugyeon to think she has fallen for Jinho. Once inside, Mugyeon hands over a sword to Jinho, who asks what it is. Mugyeon explains that it's a gift for him given by Naeun, which was crafted by their family's master smith. Jinho picks the sword and acknowledges it's well crafted and balanced and says he might not be worthy to hold it. Naeun looks pleased seeing Jinho like the sword. Jinho asks Mugyeon if their family head isn't worried since Naeun has been at the Suk family for over a month. Mugyeon says the head is quite concerned but claims since he is only third in the hierarchy, his hands are tied. He explains the first is his mother, the second Naean, and then third their father. And that leaves Mugian as the fourth. Mugian notices that Jinho's temples look bland, lacking distinctive qualities. But he instinctively feels Jinho is much superior to him in skills. Also, he wants to challenge him to a duel but thinks the time isn't right now. Jinho says he likes the sword and to test it asks Mugian for a duel. Mugian says he wants to duel too. Mugian notes Jinho's perception is impressive and believes he won't be an easy opponent. So a while later, both Jinho and Mugian go outside, both ready for their duel. Jinho, stretching his arms, thinks the duel will be a good way to show his skills to Mariung and Yoon. He also knows that it would be a matter of time before he and Mugian cross their swords, so now's perfect timing. Mugian withdraws his sword declaring he is ready. Jinho does the same, and their duel officially commences. Both charge and their swords clash. Mugian is surprised to see Jinho charge and so confidently despite having a new sword. As the duel continues, their swords meet each other repeatedly. Mugian creates a powerful swing in the air, sending a powerful blow but is instantly taken aback. Jinho, who is right in front of him, suddenly appears behind him in an instant. Once again, they engage in fierce sword fighting, attacking, blocking, and dodging each other's attacks. However, Mugian receives a powerful blow and groans, unable to contain it. Yoon gives an excited look while Mariung marvels at such a high level of duel. Both Master Beck and Lady Naean are impressed as well. Meanwhile, Mugian curses at being pushed back so easily, but he refuses to lose and swinging his sword sends a large blade of wind at Jinho. Jinho does the same and attacks back, realizing Mugian won't go down easily. Their attacks collide mid-air, sending powerful force of wind all around. The spectators shield themselves in protection. Mugian sends multiple attacks at Jinho while Jinho realizes he needs to close in for a better chance, and he also sends back multiple attacks towards Mugian. Swinging his sword, he advances towards Mugian. However, he decides to not end the duel and take the chance to awaken his senses from past life. Mugian notices Jinho's smile and wonders if he should use his trump card. And grinning back, he decides to show Jinho the ultimate technique passed down by the family head. He makes a powerful swing of his sword and using the chaotic origin thunderous divine arts, sends airballs mixed with electricity at Jinho. Meanwhile, Jinho takes a step back and puts force into his leg, ready for the incoming attack. He then slices the air with the sword. A massive explosion-like eruption occurs as Mugen's attacks all get neutralized. Seeing this, Mugian is lost for words. His expression turns to struggle, and he concedes, saying he has nothing left to show. Jinho thanks Mugian for his effort. Mugian says he was hurt seeing Naean not cheer for him and nevertheless says he learned a lot. Jinho also claims it was a good experience for him. He then offers Mugian lunch, claiming his Nanu is a good cook. Following after Jinho, Mugen's expectations of Jinho change as he recognizes Jinho's true power. Master Beck asks Mugian his thoughts on Jinho after a direct duel with him, and Mugian says Jinho's skills and character are beyond his expectations, and he thinks becoming a family with Jinho might not be a bad idea. Meanwhile, Jinho's grandfather, the Supreme Elder, learns that Jinho's been given a nickname, Armwind Thunder Tiger. The man sitting beside says that it's troubling if the word spreads that the young master of the Peng family dueled with Jinho. The Supreme Elder says he heard the Peng family rejected Jin Pyong's magic proposal. He also explains he heard Jinho isn't interested in the Sook Wind Escorts Agency, causing his interest in the escort mission conference to be puzzling. And he believes if Jinho makes a move, it will raise the prestige of his Sook family and deems Jinho's purpose in participating a good thing. He expresses excitement in seeing what will happen next. The Supreme Elder expresses excitement to see what Jinho will do next. Jinho is greeted by Diakwal when he and his party reach the escort mission conference. Diakwal says he couldn't meet Jinho earlier because he was busy preparing for the conference. Jinho says it's okay and shows gratitude to Diakwal for sending comfortable carriages for the trip. Diakwal says he will show Jinho and the others their quarters later and offers them to go and eat in the banquet hall. On their way, Jinho notices lots of different flags. Diakwal explains that those are the banners of different escort agencies involved in the conference. As he spots a group, his expression changes to loathing, and he says those people also had the nerve to show their faces. Jinho looks at whom Diakwal is referring to and notices a bearded man, whom Diakwal introduces as Biam Wogang from the White Demon Escort Agency. Diakwal claims Wogang must be planning to retake his position through the martial arts contest. Jinho excitedly hopes Wogang will challenge him. Looking around, he reveals that the martial strength of an escort agency is crucial for the success or failure of the next generation, explaining why his family wants to retain him. Diakwal points ahead and tells Jinho and the others to go and eat, saying he will be off to help others. As they enter the banquet, they marvel at seeing the number of different varieties of food. Jinho tells Nanny to not be shy and eat as much as she wants. He instructs Darky to stay with Nanny, receiving a mew from him. As he turns to leave, Nanny asks where he is going, and he replies he needs to see someone. While walking along the streets, Jinho sees a crowd discussing the challenge between the young master of the White Demon Escort Agency and the young master of the Green Pine Escort Agency. He crosses his arms and looks interested. Meanwhile, BM Wogang from the White Demon Escort Agency wonders if his challenge has been rejected by the head and the young master of the Green Pine Escort Agency. A lady claims that a duel is supposed to be agreed upon by both parties and no one has any obligation to accept it. A kid behind the lady tells her to step aside, saying it's the moment he has been waiting for. Jinho is surprised to see such young ones are the agency head and the young master, and he thinks there must be a reason, so he walks towards them. He introduces himself to the agency head and the young master of the Green Pine Escort Agency. The head looks startled to see Jinho and asks him who he is. Wogang bellows that it's rude of Jinho to come and barge into others' conversation. He tries to grab Jinho from behind, but Jinho swiftly moves forward. Seeing such quick movement, Wogang is bewildered and notes Jinho isn't ordinary. The other spectators recognize Jinho and are surprised to see him, having heard of his extraordinary feats from earlier. Learning this, even Wogang seems aghast. Jinho smiles, apologizes for intervening, and says he was just glad to see a familiar face and introduces himself. Wogang also introduces himself from the White Demon Escort Agency. Jinho says he has an unfortunate connection with people from the White Demon Escort Agency. Hearing this, the people around start whispering, wondering what might be the issue between the White Demon Escort Agency and Jinho, causing Wogang to redden in anger. Jinho says it's unexpected for Wogang to openly request a duel. Wogang, in anger, asks Jinho what did he say. Jinho mocks him, saying he is scared of the Wind Escort Agency and is picking on the Green Pine Escort Agency. Now enraged, Wogang shouts at Jinho to mind his tongue. Both of them exchange murderous glances. Wogang clenches his fist and reveals he was trying to pick an easy opponent to show off and is angry at Jinho for meddling in. He asks Jinho if he wants to exchange pointers with him, hoping to defeat Jinho and take the fame. Jinho smirks and says exchanging pointers is beneficial when the opponent is capable and says Wogang doesn't meet his standard. Seeing Wogang angry at these words, Jinho says he isn't mocking him but just finds him not the right opponent and proposes a proxy duel. Wogang asks Jinho if he is planning to call on the Habukping family for help, which Jinho denies. Jinho says that the young master of the Green Pine Escort Agency will be the one to exchange pointers with Wogang. Jinho asks the young master if he agrees to the duel. He also says that if he doesn't want to, it's okay. But the young master says that he will accept the offer, causing his sister to shout at him. Wogang, smirking, asks Jinho if he is really staking the Suk family's reputation on the Green Pine Escort Agency and tells him to think clearly. However, Jinho smiles and says they should meet there on the last day to decide. Wogang bows back and says he hopes neither of them gets cold feet at the last moment. He turns to leave, deeming Jinho an idiot for thinking the Green Pine will be a match for him. A long silence falls among the spectators as Wogang walks away. The head of the Green Pine Agency asks Jinho what he is doing and says her brother, Juyun, is no match for Wogang. Jinho apologizes to the head and says it's not right for her to look down on her brother even before the match has started. He claims he never wagers his name on a lost cause and is sure Juyun will win, saying he will make sure of it. It's night, and in their quarter, the Green Pine Agency's head questions why Jinho might have chosen her brother. Meanwhile, Juyun is blushing and also surprised to have been chosen. The head snaps at him for looking happy, and Juyun says he is happy because he will get an opportunity to learn. The head sighs and says she has heard rumors about Jinho as well, and at that very moment, someone comes outside asking for her. She asks back who the person is, and the voice says he was sent by Jinho. Jong Maryung walks in, saying Jinho has requested the presence of both the head and Juyun. They accompany Jong Maryung back to Jinho's quarters, both looking curious. Jong Maryung points to a door and tells the two to go in. Inside, Jinho is sitting on his bed as he invites them in, saying they have a lot to discuss. Juyun and his sister, Jiyun, the head of the agency, both greet Jinho and introduce themselves. Jinho greets back and introduces himself too. Jiyun curiously asks Jinho why he decided to help them. Jinho explains that he is not being kind but simply repaying a debt of gratitude to the previous generation. He explains that the situation was the same back then. In a past life, he was very weak and once he got lost in the dead of winter in deep mountains. His body was freezing from the cold, causing him to be unable to move. But then someone had seen him lying down and called for help. The man was the head of the Green Pine Escort Agency who saved him. He rescued him and kept him warm, and fed him, showing kindness. This event is still the best memory Jinho has among all his countless lives. Jinho says that his late mother told him she owed a debt to the head of the Green Pine Escort Agency as well and had told him to repay the debt. He explains that he can't repay the debt with money, so is trying to help them with his abilities. Ju-yoon tries to ask Jinho a question, but before that, Jinho says he wants to ask something first. He claims that he heard the Green Pine Agency was among the top 10 great escort agencies and questions what happened to it. The head, Ji-yoon, offers to explain. She says that their agency was indeed among the Central Plains' top 10 escort agencies. However, once the White Demon Escort Agency colluded with bandits to hijack the goods the Green Pine Agency was protecting. The late head of the Green Pine was killed while defending their goods from the bandits' assault. After the incident, Ji-yoon's mother had gone to the scene to gather evidence but never returned. Hearing this incident, Jinho realizes the fierceness he saw in Ji-yoon's eyes must be because of her tragic past. He apologizes to her for making her recall such painful memories, but Ji-yoon says it's nothing. Jinho stands up and says they don't have much time and instructs the two to follow him. Once outside, Ju-yoon exclaims in surprise looking at something ahead. Jinho notes that Ju-yoon's muscles are well defined and is sure his movement must be good as well. He speculates that Ju-yoon must have a high determination. He is certain that though Ju-yoon is barely a first-class martial artist, he will become strong with the right training. He reminds Ju-yoon there isn't much time and suggests they get started. Ju-yoon's training commences with Jinho instructing. At first, Ju-yoon gets knocked back easily, and Jinho realizes his movements are too stiff. Seeing her brother getting beaten up, Ji-yoon tries to run towards him, but he orders her to stay back. Sweating and determined, Ju-yoon says he has been given a chance and he won't give up. Ji-yoon agrees with Ju-yoon's determination and claims she acted foolishly. Ju-yoon gets into an offensive position and says it's his turn now. Shouting, he charges at Jinho. However, Jinho manages to knock him back with a single push. Jinho follows quickly and pushes Ju-yoon against the wall. He then launches a kick at Ju-yoon from behind. The force of the kick sends Ju-yoon smashing down on his face. After that, Jinho walks away, saying that's enough for the day. But Ju-yoon claims he can keep going, and Jinho tells him he needs to recover first. Ju-yoon says he understands. The next day, Ju-yoon is ready to start training. Looking excited, he tells his sister he can feel something different in him. He claims that despite getting hit so many times, his body still feels lighter and he feels his flow of energy is stabilized. Ji-yoon says that she was thinking Jinho was just hitting her brother, but seeing his body feels lighter, she is also surprised. At that moment, Jinho walks in, saying Ju-yoon is early. Seeing Jinho, both siblings greet him and ask if he slept well. Jinho says he slept well and asks them back the same question. Ju-yoon says he slept very peacefully and explains his body feels very light. Jinho explains that he helped Ju-yoon loosen his overstressed muscles and meridians. He tells him to take enough time to recover, implying his body needs to grow as well. Jinho then asks him if he has a preferred sword technique, and Ju-yoon says he uses the technique passed down through his family. Jinho, holding a wooden sword, tells Ju-yoon to demonstrate his technique. Outside the massive temple-like building, the streets are bustling with many people. Walking among them, Diakwal says the massive crowd must be because of the duel that is going to take place as it's the last day of the conference. Jinho tells him to not worry much, and Diakwal says he trusts Jinho with all his heart. He also informs that he has helped arrange a special place for the duel. At that moment, Ju-yoon and his sister arrive, calling out for Jinho. Jinho asks Ju-yoon if he is prepared, and Ju-yoon, looking excited, says he is very confident. As the time for the duel nears, both contestants get ready. Wogang mocks Ju-yoon and tells him since he didn't run, he will meet the end like his father, who died due to recklessness as well. Ju-yoon withdraws his sword and says everything will be clear after the duel. Spectating from nearby, Mariung looks worried, sensing Wogang's massive internal energy, but Yoon assures him not to. He reminds Mariung that Jinho has shown them himself that strength isn't all about internal energy. Wogang grins and mocks Ju-yoon for thinking himself special just because he associated with Jinho. He lunges forward with his sword raised, saying no matter how hard the dregs struggle, it's still just a futile effort. Ju-yoon, with his sword ready, notes that Wogang is fast, but he remembers what Jinho had taught him. He realizes he can easily see Wogang's movements and dodges his attacks. Previously while training, Ju-yoon would always get pushed back down by Jinho. Once he had asked why his attacks never land. Jinho had explained that it's all about directing your gaze and asked Ju-yoon where his gaze is directed at. Ju-yoon had said his gaze was on Jinho, causing Jinho to say that's not true and called out him for only looking at his sword's tip. Jinho had said that looking at the tip would be bad as by the time it moves, it would be too late, especially when fighting a strong opponent. At present, Wogang seems pissed seeing Juyun dodge all his attacks like a rat. Juyun claims that though Wogang is stronger, he can read all his movements after watching Jinho for several days. He reveals that a person's stance shows where their center of gravity is, and the movements of the torso tell the direction of the next attack. On top of that, mostly when all the strength goes into their shoulders, it means their attack will come. Juyun notices this and guesses Wogang will launch an attack. So he reacts fast and before Wogang can launch the attack, swipes his sword, cutting Wogang in his stomach. Wogang groans in pain and, startled, steps back. Jiyun, seeing her brother's skills, mutters he has really grown stronger. However, Jinho says it's too early to be happy, noting that Wogang hasn't used his full strength yet. Wogang notices his father behind him looking at him in full concentration. He looks worried, thinking if he loses to the simple kid, his father will not be happy. So he decides to go all out as a smirk replaces his worried look. He then swings the sword, sending a wind blade towards Juyun. The attack strikes right in front of Juyun, sending rubble flying all around. Wogang takes the chance and lunges forward. Both of the contenders now engage in a fierce sword duel. Both seem equally skilled as their swords clash. However, Juyun gets pushed backward. Watching from nearby, Jinho says that's expected as Wogang is obviously a cut above Juyun. Mariyoung asks what they should do. Worried for Juyun, Jinho says they can run away, but they might not get a chance. Meanwhile, in the duel, Juyun looks like he's struggling. He is being pushed back by Wogang. He even receives a massive cut by Wogang's sword. Despite bleeding, Juyun doesn't give up. Wogang asks Juyun why he isn't stopping. Suddenly, Juyun manages to strike a hit back at Wogang. From the force of the hit, Wogang spits blood. After that, both his and Juyun's swords lay on the ground. Wogang is half-sitting, injured and bleeding, while Juyun, still standing, has a large visible cut on his arm. Juyun declares that the outcome has been decided. Wogang is unable to accept that he lost to a nobody. He realizes he will now be a laughingstock and, anxious, doesn't want that to happen. So he grabs back his sword and gets up, saying it's not over. Juyun is taken aback seeing Wogang charging at him. However, Jinho steps in between and knocks down Wogang. He says that Wogang is using dirty tricks just like his father while Wogang lays slammed down on the ground. The spectators, all confused at first, realized Jinho intervened and knocked out Wogang in a single strike. Wogang's father orders his subjects to go and fetch Wogang. His face screwed in anger, he curses Jinho and vows to make him pay. Diakwal gleefully hugs Jinho and praises him for doing such impressive feats again. Mariyoung and Nanny both also look pleased and impressed as well. Juyun approaches Jinho and says he doesn't know how to repay the debt of gratitude. Jinho reminds him that he is merely repaying the kindness from the previous generation. In this way, the conference ended without further incidents. Jinho also gradually assimilated into his new life and the people around him. Before he knew it, he was already celebrating a year since he acquired the new body. The day also arrived for Jinho to leave his house. As he is about to depart, his father asks him if he is really leaving. Jinho says he already made that clear earlier and refuses to call his father father. He also mentions he thought his father was busy and reminds him he should know himself whether his child is leaving or not. Jinho says he is heading to the Yellow River in Habuk province. He also explains that Nanny is from that place. His father hands him an envelope as a birthday gift, saying it's something he prepared himself. He also tells Jinho it's not about settling any debts, and Jinho says he will use it gratefully. His father asks his plans upon reaching Yellow River, and Jinho says he is thinking of starting a small martial arts academy, and the academy will be named Heavenly Ascent Martial Academy. A dreamy look appears on Jong Mariyoung's face upon hearing Jinho will open a martial arts academy. Excitedly, he asks Jinho if he and Yoon will be the instructors, to which Jinho says it might be possible. Mariyoung suggests calling Jinho principal when suddenly Darky kicks him in the head. Jinso says Darky wants to move the luggage first and settle titles later, and Mariyoung, massaging his head, agrees. At that moment, one of the servants tells Jinho the representative has sent him a message. He explains that the representative wants Jinho to have horses and carriages and wishes his martial arts academy success. Nanny seems to like the new place, finding it better than she thought. She marvels at how refreshing and close to the sea it is, and Jinho says he is glad to hear that. He reminds Nanny she will be busy there helping him with the academy and trade. Nanny assures Jinho to leave it to her. Jinho then withdraws a pouch of money, saying he will count on Nanny. He hands it to her, hoping she will put in her efforts and help him run things. He then turns to the workers, telling them to finish quickly so they can all rest. The sun is nearly set now, and the marketplace is busy with people. Walking beside Jinho, Yoon says they might need more things to trade in the markets, as Jinho claims their livestock will arrive the next day. Nanny, holding Darky, mentions everyone must be hungry and, noting a good smell nearby, they go to eat. Maryung sniffs the air and says that the smell is mouth-watering. Jinho also agrees and, looking at the source of the smell, says it's really tempting and suggests they go there. So they all enter the eatery to eat. However, upon entering, they notice some men bullying two little kids. Seeing this, Maryung shouts out and tries to defend the kids, but Jinho stops him. Jinho admits that they just wanted a peaceful meal and says it seems they arrived at the wrong time. One of the men mockingly says his group will make way, noting Jinho and the others are guests. Stepping forward, he asks Jinho if it's his first time there, to which Jinho admits they are new to the neighborhood. The man, grinning, says they should introduce each other and says he is Oh Chun Geology from Red Cliff Sect. Jinho also introduces himself as the principal of the Heavenly Ascent Martial Academy. He then asks the man to step aside if he has no more to say, to which the man complies and makes way. The man then instructs the other thugs to follow him, noting his patron needs to make every penny possible. Jinho turns to the kids and asks if the meal is ready, and the kids request Jinho and the others to take a seat. The girl offers to serve 4 bowls of noodles, and Jinho tells her to bring some meat for his cat as well. Jinho then calls Maryung, who responds to his call. Turning around, Jinho asks Maryung if he plans to step in every time he sees injustice. Maryung becomes silent at this question. Jinho advises Maryung to always consider the consequences before acting, suggesting that if they had chased off the ruffians earlier, the trouble with those siblings would have likely persisted. Maryung admits he didn't think that far ahead. Jinho reminds him to decisively step forward next time. Maryung sighs and says he understands. Jinho reveals that he introduced his name to those thugs so they don't cause any trouble once they realize who he is. At that moment, the siblings bring out the 4 servings of noodles as well as meat for Darky. Nanny exclaims, impressed at such fast service, and praises the siblings. Taking their bowls, all 4 of them take a mouthful of noodles and instantly scream out that it's delicious. Without waiting, they begin to gobble the food like goblins while praising the taste. Jinho asks the girl if they owe money to those men from earlier, and she agrees, saying they owe a small loan to them. She explains that her grandmother got sick, causing them to fall a bit short on that month's expenses. She then smiles and says she shouldn't trouble her guests with those kinds of stories and moves on with her chores. Jinho feels bad for those siblings with their sick grandmother. He assumes those men from earlier probably wanted to take over the whole restaurant using the loan as an excuse, so he decides to stay and just watch, noting that if his plan works, those men will be taken care of. A massive wave of the ocean roars loudly as Yoon and Maryung continue their training nearby. Suddenly, the wave slams down onto Maryung, causing him to shout out for help. Yoon rescues Maryung and tells him not to go too deep into the water, as Maryung says it's difficult to balance on the sand. Jinho points out that the sandy beach is the best way to build leg strength. Realizing the sand is important, Maryung smiles, asking if that's true. Jinho suggests they should wrap up the training and go check out their fish traps. Doing so, they find a few shrimps and an octopus. Yoon complains they're being unproductive, just wandering around without working, prompting Jinho to remind them they don't have any responsibilities yet. He tells them to just focus on their own tasks and train. As they prepare to depart, Jinho tells them to gather and meet in the evening. Jinho notes that the internal affairs in his martial arts academy have been dealt with, so he decides to focus on the external ones. He then climbs on a boat and begins meditating while thinking about his financial conditions. He reveals that he assigned various tasks to Yoon, Maryung, and Nanny to make the academy prosperous. He also thinks it will be necessary to find a temporary source of income until the martial academy can stand on its own feet. He claims that for that reason, he chose Yellow River as the location as he prepares to dive into the sea. Swimming deeper, he notes that there are spiritual creatures which can be sold for a good amount of money.